Welcome to Leaseweb Tech Talk, the podcast exploring tech landscape, cloud hosting, and IT infrastructure. Whether you're a professional or new to tech, Leaseweb Tech Talk got you covered. Join us for latest trend, business cases, insightful interviews, and useful tips. Welcome to Leaseweb Tech Talk, the place where we speak about tech, business cases, practical tips. And today, here with me, I have our CDN expert, Shanook Jaansen. She's the product manager here at Leaseweb, who is going to share insight knowledge about CDN today. Hi, Shanook, how are you?
Yeah, I'm great. Hi, everyone. I'm great to be here.
Oh, thank you so much, Shanook, for taking the time out for this podcast and sharing your expert knowledge. Before we jump into our topic, speaking about different facts and myths about CDN, I want to understand, weekend is around the corner. What's your plan?
Well, I'm just going to relax. Maybe to some film festival. It's still sort of Indian summer here in the Netherlands, which I enjoy. And, you need to enjoy the sun while it lasts because it doesn't last long in the Netherlands.
Exactly. But this weekend, the weather looks great. So I hope you get some precious time out and get some rest.
I will, for sure.
Let's jump into the facts and myths. So the listeners are very curious to know if those information and the knowledge they see on internet, if those are facts or myths about CDN.
Well, let's uncover that today.
Yeah, let's uncover that today. Yeah. So Shanook, the first information or the first knowledge you see over internet is CDNs are for large and big companies. Is it a fact? It's a myth? What is it?
Well, it's obviously a myth, of course. So CDNs can be used for any company. It just depends what type of content you want to send over the internet and what your business looks like. So CDN is about making sure that your end users can load your website instantly. And the fact if they need to wait for even 2 seconds, that is already too long and your business will drop. So if you have a global reach of users that want to reach your website or that want to reach your content that you spread over the internet, you would benefit really from having a CDN.
Why do you think this information or this belief that CDN is for large companies out there in the market?
Maybe it's because people don't know it well enough, what a CDN is and how it can benefit your business. I think it's also because they think you need a lot of people that managing your CDN. Actually, if you have a managed CDN, you only need to configure the CDN, and then the CDN is managed by an engineering team that you buy the CDN from the CDN provider. So you don't need a lot of resources to manage your CDN, for example. So it just depends if you are like a small company, and let's say a small company is you're selling milk, local milk to like your local village, and you have 30 visitors per day on your website, then you don't need a CDN. But if you have a bigger reach, and that can have like thousands of users per day on your website, that the traffic becomes larger, and that makes your website slower in response. So then you would need a CDN. You would benefit from a CDN.
So is it, if you have to give one tip to all the small enterprise or small entrepreneurs who are listening to us to deploying CDN, what would be that tip, or choosing that strategy? What's your one tip that you want to share?
Well, I think you need to determine where is your user base located. Is that all in one region? Is that globally? Because if you want a global reach, sending from your origin to someone in Japan, let's say your origin server is in Amsterdam, the Netherlands, and you want to send your content to Japan, sending it all the way from Amsterdam to Japan takes long. So it's very beneficial to have a CDN that sends your website content to the nearest POP, point of presence, so that the user in Japan can load your website fast. So that's one thing to consider. It also is how fast do you want your content to be delivered to end users. If you think that you can, that it's okay for your business, that customers can wait long for your website to load or can wait long for your content to load, then you don't need a CDN. But in average, the numbers say it's already with 2 seconds, 4% of your customer satisfaction drops of wait time. So people don't want to wait, especially in this world that changes so fast, where you want content and information quickly accessible to you. You don't want to wait.
Yeah. So in the conclusion, we can just say that in the era of digitalization, CDN is for everyone. It doesn't have to be for large companies. It's for large, medium, small enterprises, even I'm guessing for the freelancers.
Yeah, I mean, if you have a small, like I have a small business, right? If I have a small business and I have only like 10 customers or 20 customers, I don't need a CDN.
Yeah.
And the customers are all in Amsterdam, I don't need a CDN. But if you have a more global reach, if you need your page to load fast, then a CDN is always a good option.
Okay, that's great. So it's for everyone.
Like also in general, like content is, everybody wants content everywhere now, on your phone, on your laptop, on your watch, on the screens, on the bus station, the train station. People don't want to wait to know what time the train is leaving for 2 minutes. Like nobody can deal with that.
So the next piece of information we have, Shanook, is that all CDNs are same. So is that a fact?
That is not a fact.
Okay.
There are single CDN providers, there are multi-CDN providers. Single CDN providers, they rely on one network of different points of presence globally. Multi-CDN use several CDN network providers with different points of presence all over the world, and they combine that and offer it into one CDN solution. But CDN providers, they always have a specific geographic focus. They're always specialized in one geographic area, for example. They also have different networks. There are different type of level tiering of networks, type of network providers they use, the way it's set up. So it's very different. The POP locations around the world are different. It's not that all CDN providers offer the same POP locations.
Okay. If you can just to elaborate more, as you touch on single CDN on one geographical and multi-CDN for various geographical locations, if you can explain it for the listeners, especially who are new to the CDN industry or the new to tech, what is the common difference of single CDN and multi-CDN, and if you can also give them small advantages of each of them.
Yeah, so a single CDN, for example, they usually have a geographic focus. So let's say that is Europe and the Americas. So most of their POPs, the point of presence, where they can send the content to the users from, that is located in, for example, Europe and Americas, most of their POPs. They usually also have some POPs in the APAC region or in Africa or in Latin America, but with every single CDN provider, you can see a focus on region. So what happens with a multi-CDN provider is that you combine the strengths of each different single CDNs and offer it as one CDN. Okay. So you don't have that dependency of that this CDN provider has a lot of presence in the Americas and this CDN provider has a lot of presence in the APAC region, and also the pricing, because sending traffic from Europe to South Korea, for example, is very expensive, because South Korea it's difficult to get traffic there because it's cut off from the mainland. And that is very expensive. So every CDN provider have different prices based on different regions. Mm-hmm. So you also want the best price for the region that they focus on. And if you have a multi-CDN provider, they can have different CDN providers that have different geographic focus with the better pricing, offering that for either one price or tiered pricing per region, but usually more cost effective.
Okay, and when you say that multi-CDN is an aggregation of different CDN providers, mm-hmm. So if I have my own business and I'm using multi-CDN, do I have to switch my providers myself, or how does that work?
It depends on the type of multi-CDN provider, because there are some multi-CDN providers that have do-it-yourself CDN. So then you can set it up yourself. You can choose what CDN providers are good for your business, and then you manage that yourself. But you also have multi-CDN providers that manages it for you, and they have an automatic switching layer based on data analytics from real-time user input, basically. So I think that's very beneficial if you don't have a lot of resources in your company that can manage a CDN, or if you don't have the knowledge, because that also comes with money to buy the knowledge inside your company.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so we can definitely say all CDNs are not same. It's completely myth. Thank you for debunking that. Let's move to the next piece of information that we have. So our listener wants to know that if single CDN is sufficient, because it's a common knowledge that maybe single CDN is cheap. So listeners wants to know if single CDN is sufficient.
If it's sufficient for all businesses, you mean?
Yes.
Well, it's not the case that a single CDN is always cheap, because it depends on the provider, and also depends on how many POP locations they have and how expensive it is, because there are some single CDN providers that are very expensive, more expensive than some multi-CDN providers. So that is also not true that it's cheap. Some single CDN providers are cheaper, yes, than multi-CDN providers, but it really depends. Is a single CDN sufficient for your business? That really depends on your business and where you have your end users located. If you have a global end user network, meaning all over the world in every continent, then a single CDN provider is not always sufficient. Even though single CDN providers claim that they have a global reach, as we just talked about, is that they always have a specific focus of geolocation where they have better pricing or where they have more POPs located, so the point of presence. So if your end users are, for example, only in the Americas, then it is sufficient to have a CDN provider that focuses only on the Americas, so that you can deal with a single CDN provider. Then you need to keep in mind, can you afford outages? Because no matter the strength of the network or the brand's reputation of the company, every single CDN provider is faced with an outage sometimes. That happens, even with the biggest well-known ones.
Yeah.
So if you have an outage, that means your website is not reachable. That means people cannot buy the products at your website.
So you have error 404.
It's like, or different types of errors, depending on what the reason is of the outage. But if your website is not, let's say it's Black Friday.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of traffic going to your website, and you're selling,
say the e-commerce, watches.
You're selling watches, and people want to buy for Black Friday your watches. There's an outage with your single CDN provider that is a top single CDN provider. Then how much revenue will you lose for having a 1 hour outage on a big day as Black Friday? So that's something that you need to consider. If that's something that you can afford, then it's fine to have a single CDN. But with a multi-CDN, you have a failover solution. So if one CDN has an outage, it will fail over to the next CDN that is working still, so that your business can continue running and that people can reach your website to buy the watch, for example.
Okay. So what is the key business benefit you would highlight when you are telling people that, okay, single CDN is not sufficient? It has to do with the geographical location they're focusing in. Is it the business continuity?
Yeah, I think you need to consider what is important to you and what are the costs? What is the cost benefit? Yeah. I think you need to determine how much the single CDN that you're considering is costing you per month for the amount of traffic that you are in general use. What type of plan do you get with them? Is that like pay as you go? Is it a committed plan? Do you have consistent traffic? Do you have peak traffic? So that's all considerations that you need to have. Where are your end users located? Is that in one region that this single CDN provider is focusing on? And can you afford an outage?
Yeah.
Is that okay for you, or do you need a failover solution?
Yeah, exactly. Security is a big concern out there for the businesses, and it's one of the hottest topic. How does CDN provides security to all the information or all the traffic you are sending out there?
Well, with CDN, you add another layer of protection in front of your origin.
Okay.
So the traffic goes through the CDN and through the POPs, not directly to your origin. So that is already a layer of security. Then it has built-in DDoS protection, and it manages large volumes of traffic to be distributed, which is also a very beneficial security benefit for CDN.
Okay, that's great. So if anyone is signing up for CDN, they get an additional layer of security and DDoS protection.
It's a built-in DDoS protection, level
Okay.
3, level 4. If you need advanced security, then you need to add additional security protection. So CDN cannot protect you against all types of attacks. You need different types of layers of security.
That's true.
But it is already an additional layer of security in front of your origin. Otherwise, all your request goes directly to your origin, and there's no CDN layer in between.
Yeah.
So that makes your origin very vulnerable for, first of all, large volumes of traffic, also for DDoS attacks, for malicious attacks. So you don't want that to happen.
Exactly. I had an amazing time speaking to you and debunking all these myths that we have out there. And I hope that our listener enjoyed it respectively. Thank you so much to all our listeners for tuning in on today. And we enjoyed talking about all these technical facts and myths about CDN. Stay tuned for the next episode. We will speak more about CDN in our upcoming episodes. We hope you found this episode insightful. For more content, like, share, and subscribe. You can also subscribe to our newsletter at leaseweb.com/newsletter.